go ahead and jump right into it. We'll go ahead and start off, of course, with John Morant. John Morant, in an interview roughly about a month ago with Malika Andrews, where he was talking about where the Grizzlies rank in the hierarchy in comparison to the rest of the league. Though he said the only team that he's watching out for is the Boston Celtics, and when Malika Andrews said any team in the Western Conference, he proceeded to follow up with by saying, "I am fine in the West." So with those comments, do we believe that the Grizzlies right now are talking a little bit too much?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think they're talking too much at all. I mean, these guys literally just had an 11-game win streak. It just ended against the Lakers the other day, but they came off an 11-game win streak. They were tied for the first seed. Now they're second seed. They've been bouncing back and forth between Denver, but these guys they've been dominating the West. A lot of people coming into this season had question marks whether they could replicate that same form, whether they'd still finish as a top three seed coming into the season, and whether they'd be a top five seed at all. People thought they lost some pieces on their bench, and there's probably going to be some regression coming on. But I mean, look how they've been playing. Defensively, they've been one of the best teams, especially since Jaren Jackson's return. This guy's been absolutely a menace. My defensive player of the year, vote if I had to pick one today, it'd be him. And of course, John Morant's always going to play like an all-star. And Desmond Bane, he's been back and he's been solid. And Dylan Brooks, who, a lot of guys don't like Dylan Brooks, and I understand where they're coming from. But Brooks on defense, he's been all defensive player, absolutely on defense. Even, when he was guarding LeBron, I understand there was some double teams and some triple teams and whatnot, but he's doing an absolute phenomenal job on a lot of stars that he's matched up in against. He gets the hardest assignment every time. And so I don't know what people are expecting the Grizzlies and John Morant to say. Do they want him to say, yeah, I am looking out for some teams? No, if I'm them, I'm saying, you know what? I'm not afraid of nobody in the West. I'm focused on who comes out the East. So, I understand where he's coming from, and I don't think they're talking too much at all.
Nah, they talking a little too much, you know what I'm saying? They pulled up to my home court, you know what I'm saying? Uncle Shay was there and they started yapping a little bit. They got Uncle Shay riled up. They got him out of his seat. He was ready to go, but yeah, I feel like they're talking a little bit too much. Teams like the Nuggets, I feel like, once they're healthy, they're getting healthy. We're seeing Jamal Murray get back into shape. They're hooping right now. I feel like the team like a Nuggets or maybe the team like a healthy Clippers or even, Warriors or Lakers right now. Those two teams are struggling. They're at the bottom of the standings, but I feel like those two teams healthy as well can, take on Memphis and beat them in a 7-game series. For them to say, I'm not worried about any team in the West and I'm only looking forward to teams in the East, I mean, you got to go back to last year. They lost to the Warriors. Was it second round? I mean, if you lose to you get out the second round, you should be worried about some teams in the playoffs.
But like, why would
But
anyone say that though? Like, why would
yeah,
I say?
I'm
who
not
says
saying
who says that
I'm
though?
not
Like,
saying
I'm
that
afraid
I'm
of
gonna
somebody.
be, but at the same time, to me, I feel like it's just like, do I really believe they're finals ready? I don't think yet. I feel like they're still missing a piece in that team. Ja, he's at that superstar level. He's at
I
that
mean, the
top
West is wide
one.
open though. Like, the
The West is
West is
wide
as wide
open.
open as it
But
gets.
like I
But the
said
thing is,
though,
that's fair to say. The West is wide open.
West is wide open, but when it comes into that crunch time in the playoffs, I feel like these experienced teams, like the Nuggets, got their players ready to go. They got that. I feel like Jamal Murray, if he plays a full year healthy, he can be a second All Star. We know what MPJ can bring to the table. And then you got teams like Kawhi he's getting into rhythm right now. PG's coming back into shape. AD's coming back. And we know what the Warriors bring to the table when they start clicking as well. So I feel like once the playoffs comes and says that we're really not worried about anybody, I feel like it's a little too much. And all the extra chirping they're doing on the sideline and on the court, and Dylan Brooks talking about, hey, I can guard this type of player. I can make LeBron go left, and I was playing great defense on him, and the help was there. Yeah, you had 3-4 players helping you every single time going down that left side. So for him to say I can guard LeBron James is a little outrageous to me. And I don't know. Memphis is again in that little corny category of hopping into the Suns to me right now. So I feel like they're a great team. Ja's a great superstar, but do they have that second superstar that can emerge, that can help them in the playoffs and take them over that next step? I don't believe so. So for them to say, hey, we're only worried about Boston in the East now, and I feel like there's other teams they got to be worried about in the East too, not just Boston. So yeah.
The thing is, like, this goes all the way back to last season when these guys were beating up on the Golden State Warriors in the regular season, and then you have
I like
Dylan
that
Brooks.
too. Them saying we got a dynasty,
We
and
have a
dynasty is when you win multiple times, and then your guys get together 7-8 years. them coming out 2 years together, even some players even there for a year to say, yeah, we got a dynasty. A little too much.
But you
It
guys
just
want everybody to be like Kawhi, man. I'm sorry, that's just not gonna
But
happen.
here's the thing, though. Like the question that was asked to John Morant was like, who do you have your eye on in the Western Conference, or actually, who do you have your eye on throughout the entire league? Like, where do the Grizzlies rank? And then he just says, I have my eye on the Celtics. Like, that's a team I'm looking out for. That's a team that we're gonna have to run into, and we might have some problems down the line. But any other team in the West, there's not any. We don't face any problems there. Like, if the question was like, if the question was, are you afraid of anybody in the Western Conference, I'd understand, but that wasn't the question. Like, of course, I'm not
Even
gonna
if
go.
it's like your eye on, like I respect that. Like, no, I don't got my eye on anybody. I think I'm better than everybody in the West. I respect that. That's a perfectly normal take. No superstar is gonna come out and say, well, I have my eye on the Denver Nuggets and Jokic, and I have my eye on Steph Curry. And maybe I
It's
have
like,
my eye on the Lakers. No,
but
I don't have
you
my
you
eye
don't
on
you don't beat the
nobody.
Warriors. You don't beat the Warriors. So how do you certify yourself better than them when it comes to the playoff time?
What do you mean?
I'm talking about Memphis.
They
You
don't.
say
Regardless of the fact that they lost last year to them, they're perfectly fine in saying like, "Yo, you know what? I'm still not afraid of these guys. We think we're better than them."
That's the thing, though. Like, when nobody's necessarily saying like, "Yo, you should be afraid of anybody." Like,
yeah,
but it's
you got
about
to
it's about
coming
it's
out,
about keeping
coming out.
keeping an eye out for the competition that's around you. For you to come out and say like, "Yo, we're good," there's nobody that we're not scared of anybody in terms of competition in the Western Conference. I think that's a bit outrageous to say because these guys haven't necessarily done much. These guys haven't clinched the Western Conference Finals, and they haven't made the finals. So there's some competition in the Western Conference, and like Big H mentioned, these teams are starting to turn up late right now in the start of the second half of the season. And so for John Morant to come out and say, "Yo, I'm fine in the West," and then follow up by losing to the Golden State Warriors on Christmas Day without Steph Curry, and then he loses to the Phoenix Suns. So it's like, you're only
Hey,
putting a
don't
target on
forget,
your back.
Proceeded to go
don't
on
forget
a
the
then
Lakers.
it
Don't forget the
proceeded. Forget
Lakers.
the
You know
rest.
what I'm saying?
Add the rest of it.
Don't forget the
Proceeded to go
Lakers.
on an
Don't forget the
11
Lakers.
game win streak. Like, come on, bro.
And then they ended up losing to the Lakers on a couple of nights ago. But he's only putting a target on the Memphis Grizzlies backs, and they're doing the same thing they did last year, where they're doing this whole lot of chirping, they're doing a whole lot of shit talking, and then when it comes to the postseason, they really just can't back it up. It doesn't make any. They're not really putting anything out there come postseason time. But these guys, I think Big H hit it right on the head. It's something I do want to speak about in terms of being like extremely corny. These guys are starting to replace the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have kind of moved on from doing all the pregame, postgame dancing and the postgame workouts and stuff. We don't necessarily see that anymore from the Phoenix Suns. Well, that's simply because they've fallen off, this season. But now we have another team that's replaced them, the Memphis Grizzlies, where after every primetime game, postgame interview, these guys are dancing in front of the camera. If you guys, do you see these guys?
Young team has fun.
These guys are gritting. These guys are gritting
Yeah,
on the court.
they
Like,
can
all the
gritty. They can
time.
have fun. Yes, they're having fun, man. What?
It's cool to have fun, but like you don't necessarily have to always portray that.
It's cool when every other team like Portland, they surround Jeremy Grant, they start pouring water on him, they start having fun. Like, come on,
you
man.
would think if like on a Friday night on ESPN and the Grizzlies win, you would think these guys have just won the NBA Finals with whoever they're
having
playing.
fun, man. That's
like,
normal.
It's okay to have fun. I'm not going to sit here and try to be the fun police,
Ja's my guy, but the rest of them guys, man, I don't know, man. His dad's a little cornball too. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. The way he try to pull up on Uncle Shay, like, what he doing?
His dad's a different discussion. I ain't talking about his dad.
Man,
that's a whole nother.
It's the whole thing. It comes with it. You know what I'm saying?
His dad's a whole nother discussion. But I'm talking about Grizzlies and them grittying. They're having fun. They're turning up. They're a young team. Like you guys are acting like these guys are like 32 years old, like gritting and stuff. Nah, like the oldest guy on the team, probably Steven Adams.
I mean, like,
he's like what, 28?
Yeah, he's not even that old, but he just looks old. Nobody's like saying like, "Yo, when you win a game on primetime and stuff, just walk off the court with a towel over your head and stuff like that." Yeah, it's cool to celebrate. Everybody celebrates in the locker room, but like I said, take that stuff to the locker room. Not when all the cameras are on you all the time. These guys always make sure to take advantage of the primetime lights whenever they're on ESPN, whenever they're on TNT. They don't shy away from the moment. But to get back to this comment that John Morant made, especially when I first heard it, it was something that I laughed at simply because like these guys don't necessarily have a track record of being like one of the top teams in the entire NBA. When we talk about like elite teams and elite franchises, the Memphis Grizzlies aren't the first team to pop up in my head. But they are a team that's up and coming. They have stepped up in these last like 3 4 weeks since we last talked about basketball. So I do got to give them credit there. But in terms of being fine in the West, I do believe they got to pump the brakes a little bit and kind of just respect the competition that's out there and just don't put a target on your back. And come postseason time, if they end up losing, it's kind of like you kind of did this to yourself. So I hope the Grizzlies are prepared for what's to come. But I do got to give them credit that right now they sit at number 2 with a record of 31-15, and like Abdi said, they were on an 11-game win streak coming into that Lakers game before they lost. So they do have the formula cooking, and they know how to win games. But the postseason is a completely different ball game in comparison to the regular season. So I think John Morant is a bit outrageous with these comments.